Hello, this is Mike Cook, and welcome to episode 22.7 of Anti-Doping Updates. Today, we've got two great stories to talk about. The first is a Paralympic pistol shooter, and the second is regarding 6 weightlifters from Pakistan. All right, let's get started. So our first story today is about Trisha Downing. She is a Paralympic athlete who competes in the sport of pistol shooting. She competed at the 2015 IPC World Cup in Stoke Mandeville, Great Britain, and in the 2016 Paralympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Downing had competed in swimming, gymnastics, and diving at the collegiate level, and also competed in road, track, and cyclocross cycling. In 2000, while cycling, she was struck by a car and as a result paralyzed from the chest down. She turned to Paralympic sports and took up shooting and excelled at the pistol shooting event. Downing had been a part of the USADA registered testing pool and had participated in anti-doping education. In 2018, Downing began suffering from menopause and experienced symptoms of irritability, depression, sleeplessness, hot flashes, and low energy. Downing sought help from her primary care physician and wasn't able to relieve her symptoms, and then turned to Margot Toms, who's a nurse practitioner who ran her own clinic called Essential Health. Downing alleged that she told Toms that she could not engage in hormone replacement therapy, but Toms' case notes indicate Downing did not tell her that. Toms prescribed DHEA and a cream which was labeled as E2/P4/T2/100/2.5 mg/ml C60M and apply 1 ml twice daily for HRT. Downing decided not to take the DHEA because she knew that was a prohibited substance, and decided to take the cream. She first used the cream on March 3rd of 2021, and on March 4th, the very next day, she was selected for out-of-competition testing by the USADA. On March 27, USADA informed Downing that her sample tested negative for prohibited substances, but her sample may be retested. After that notification, she participated in the Lima 2021 World Shooting Parasport World Cup in Lima, Peru, and on June 10th through 19th, 21, she participated in the P2 Women's 10-meter air pistol events, also in the Lima World Cup, Parasport World Cup, but she didn't medal in any of those events. On July 23, USADA informed Downing that her sample was retested and this time tested positive for testosterone, which is a prohibited substance, and that she was provisionally suspended. On August 26, Downing applied for a retroactive therapeutic use exemption, or TUE. USADA denied the request for the TUE. Downing did not contest the positive result or the anti-doping rule violation, but requested a hearing to determine the level of sanction. Under the World Anti-Doping Code, the starting point for the presence or use of a prohibited substance is 4 years. The 4-year sanction can be reduced to 2 years if the individual can establish that the anti-doping rule violation was not intentional. Intentional, according to the World Anti-Doping Code, Article 10.2.3, it is meant to identify those athletes who, 1, engage in conduct that they knew constituted an anti-doping rule violation, or 2, knew that there was a significant risk that the conduct might constitute or result in an anti-doping rule violation and manifestly disregarded that risk. Downing argued, and USADA accepted, that Downing's anti-doping rule violation was not intentional. So that brings it down to 2 years. There is further reduction if the athlete can establish no fault or negligence or no significant fault or negligence. Downing argued that she had delegated responsibility to her nurse practitioner and therefore had no fault or negligence or no significant fault or negligence. Downing argued that the arbitrator should consider the delegation doctrine as referenced in the Cass case involving tennis player Maria Sharapova. According to Downing, the arbitrator should look at, in determining the level of fault, the following should be assessed. 1. Whether the respondent's delegation was reasonable. 2. Whether the respondent properly instructed Toms. And 3. Whether the respondent exercised proper control and supervision over Toms in carrying out the task of ensuring respondent did not ingest any prohibited substances. Respondent contends she met all of those benchmarks. Toms did agree that she bore some fault in carrying out her responsibilities under the delegation doctrine, but her fault was not significant. USADA argued that the delegation doctrine did not apply to the World Anti-Doping Code because it's based on strict liabilities. Article 2.1 of the Anti-Doping Code says, it is the athlete's personal duty to ensure that no prohibited substances enters their body. And USADA also cited some various case law to support their position. The arbitrator assigned to hear this case concluded that the delegation doctrine did not apply. So next, the arbitrator looked at whether Downing's sanction could be reduced due to no fault or negligence or no significant fault or negligence. Downing argued that she understood that the compound cream she thought the compound cream would be okay to take because it was bioidentical, simulating the natural production of hormones and made from yams, and therefore would be safe for her and not cause a positive test. USADA argued that Downing had not met her burden to show no fault or negligence because she had not taken any steps to verify the content of the compounded cream, despite her experience as an elite athlete and having taken several anti-doping educational opportunities. So the arbitrator concluded that Downing had significant fault or negligence in not checking whether or not the cream contained any prohibited substances, and therefore set the sanction at 2 years. They did choose to not disqualify her results from the competitions that she took part in after providing the sample, and that was in part because USADA had first informed her that her test was negative, and only after competing found that sample was positive. So they thought that in fairness, they shouldn't disqualify those results. Okay, the next story is regarding the Pakistan weightlifters. There's 6 weightlifters from Pakistan involved in this case. First is Talib Talha. He was tested out of competition on November 29, 2021, and tested in competition on December 10 at the 2021 World Championships in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Both samples tested positive for 19-norandrosterone, and that is a detectable metabolite of nandrolone, which is an anabolic androgenic steroid. In the Tashkent 2021 World Championships, Talib became Pakistan's first ever medalist at the World Championships, taking a snatch bronze at 67 kilogram weight class 4 months after he had participated in the Olympic Games in Tokyo and got 5th place. Second weightlifter is Abu Bakr Ghan, who also was tested in competition at the 2021 World Championships, and his sample tested positive for the prohibited hormone and metabolic modulator tamoxifen metabolite. Tamoxifen is sold under the brand name Nolvadex, among others, and is a selective estrogen receptor modulator used to treat breast cancer in women and treat breast cancer it's used to treat and prevent breast cancer. It's an estrogen modulator, so presumably helping to increase production of testosterone by reducing estrogen. the IWF has delegated its anti-doping responsibilities for the 2021 World Championships to the International Testing Agency, which is a non-profit agency based out of Lausanne, Switzerland. As part of that delegation, the ITA decided to conduct targeted out-of-competition tests on Pakistani weightlifters on November 10th. The 4 weightlifters selected for testing were Mohammed Sharjeel Butt, Gulham Mustafa, Abdul Rahman, Farham Amjad. Each of those 4 weightlifters refused to provide a sample. According to an article written by Brian Oliver from InsideTheGames.biz, he reported on this situation. And according to his report, when the testing team from ITA arrived in Lahore, Pakistan, the coaches contacted the Anti-Doping Organization of Pakistan, ADOP, and they were not convinced that the individuals from ITA had the authority to conduct tests. The coaches were aware that there was another anti-doping organization, a rival one, set up by the Pakistan government, but the Pakistan Weightlifting Federation did not recognize this newly established government-sponsored anti-doping organization as a legitimate anti-doping authority. The coaches thought that only the IWF, WADA, and ADOP could conduct tests, and so the ADOP advised the athletes not to provide a sample for testing. So the ITA has provisionally suspended all 6 of those weightlifters pending the results of their deliberation. So the ITA hasn't announced a sanction on them. They've only announced the provisional suspension. So that's 6 weightlifters. Also, according to IWF rules, any nation with 3 or more doping violations within a year is liable to be suspended for up to 4 years and or fined up to $500,000, depending upon the perceived severity of the offenses. So not only are these individuals likely to be suspended, but the whole Pakistan Weightlifting Federation may be out of competition for 4 years because they have 6 violations in a year and fined up to $500,000. So that's it for anti-doping updates for this episode. I'll be back next time with some other exciting stories. Catch you next time.